this is just the title of the title of the webinar. So today we are addressing challenges and opportunities for future research and practice in disaster risk management. As you know, our project roadmap is trying to make the links between the disaster risk management in a multi-risk context, and we are addressing mainly the scientific.
Good morning, Domingos. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, Andrea. Morning, welcome. I was just presenting the title of our webinar, and I'll give you the word, Andrea, in a minute. So the agenda of today will be that you are seeing. We'll have this opening and a brief presentation of the project by its coordinator, Professor Andrea Prota. And afterwards, we'll have these different interventions that are presented here. I'd like to inform all of you that this webinar is being broadcast not only in the Zoom platform, and by the way, we are also putting it in the YouTube live, and also it will be recorded for future use of the project and for all of those that are interested in these topics and could not attend the meeting but would like to follow it afterwards. All the attendees are welcome to participate and give their contributions. As you can see, you cannot use your microphone and cameras for the benefit, let's say, of the work, but you can always intervene using the question and answers, addressing comments or questions to any one of the speakers or the interventions, or if you want to make any comment, we will follow them. If possible, all the queries that will be made will be replied during the meeting, during the webinar. If not, we'll try to address them by writing in the near future. And after having welcomed all of you, I would like to give the word to Andrea Prota, the coordinator of Roadmap project, and if you want to also welcome our participants. Andrea, please. Do you want to use any presentation, Andrea?
I will. Good morning. I will use a background from the website. So I will, in a while, I will share my screen. I see that I am unable to do that, so I should be able to do that. Good morning to all of you. Good morning to the speakers and to the attendees, and also to those that will be able to review this meeting afterwards. My thanks to the group of Professor Viegas that is organizing this meeting today, and the organization is excellent as in previous occasions. So thanks a lot. I will be glad to just briefly present to those who are not aware of the project what is Roadmap and which is the partnership. I thought that this could be done in an efficient and fast way using as background the website, because this is also an opportunity for us to advertise and point out to all of you that all information are updated and uploaded on this website. The project Roadmap is coordinated by the Italian consortium CI3R, Italian Center for Research on Risk Reduction. This is a center that has been established in 2019 under the auspices of the Department of Civil Protection, the Italian Department of Civil Protection, who is not a partner of the center, but has promoted this initiative, which has the goal of creating a network of the centers of competencies that Italian civil protection use currently as scientific support on different topics. So in this screenshot, you see the partners of CI3R, which are for the earthquake engineering risk EOCentre, which is based in Pavia, and Relewis is in a national network of earthquake engineering laboratories. We have CIMA, which is mainly focused on the hydrogeologic risk, INGV, we have ISPRA, we have the National Council of Research in Italy, we have OGS, Oceanographic Center, and we have also the Italian Agency of Space. You see, as I told you, the logo of the Italian Civil Protection Department, which is in this case related to a center of University of Florence related to risks. So as you can understand, this was an initiative aiming at coordinating the activities of Italy in support of all system of civil protection. And one of the first projects that we proposed, we launched, is a roadmap. So now I move to the section on the projects, because with this occasion, I can also share with all of you that we are also running another project, which is BORIS. Is acronym stands for Cross-Border Risk Assessment for Increased Prevention and Preparedness in Europe. So for those of you who are interested, you can check out the website. Then let's go to roadmap. So roadmap is a project which is going to its last part of duration. It's a project which is really focused on the disaster risk management, and the consortium that proposed this project is now in this section of the website. So again, CI3R, which operates in this project through three of its partners, CIMA, Iocentre, and Relewis, that are present also today. And then we have other colleagues, partners from outside of Italy, which is ADAI and University of Stavanger. We have been honored of the fact that in this project, the Italian Department of Civil Protection decided to be a partner. So we have these four partners: CI3R, the Italian Civil Protection Department, ADAI, and University of Stavanger. The project has the main objective of create a doctrine on this issue of disaster risk management, and this sketch try to explain the approach. So in order to create this European Observatory on Disaster Risk and Crisis Management Best Practices, we have activated several activities in which we try to analyze and comment about the best practices and innovation in the field of disaster risk management. So we have a bottom-up approach, because we try to get, we have tried, and we also still try to get information about this from the website, from the disaster risk management community. And we have had a great benefit from the contribution of the advisory group that in a while I would like to mention, because I'd like to thank the advisory group. So through these tools, we have issued, and we are still working on, periodical bulletins and thematic papers. All these will be finalized in the vision paper, which is ongoing. It's it's in progress. We will have a final workshop in June in Rome, and we tried to have this interaction with the community and with all the interested stakeholders through several webinars. You can find information about the dates and the topics of the webinars already held in the website. The final goal is to propose a solution explorer, which we hope that it can be integrated in the disaster risk management knowledge network and center. And in this sense, I would like to thank DG ECO, because we have interacted in an institutional way with DG ECO in order to make this solution explorer not only compatible in terms of IT technology, but also in terms of criteria, because one of the main motivation substantiating the sustainability of the project is the fact that the Solution Explorer that we will deliver at the end of this period of the project is a Solution Explorer in terms of a framework with some examples. But of course, the objective is that this Solution Explorer can be integrated in the DRM-KC and also can be enriched by the main stakeholder in the next years. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the advisory group. You can find all the names and members, so I don't read the names, but in one way, I would like to thank all the colleagues that represented the science, but also the decision makers from different countries and experts of different risks. I would like finally to invite all of you to check out also the section about publications, because here we upload the bulletin, but also the thematic papers, and you can eventually revisit the webinars. Looking at this section again, it's important I think for the entire consortium that I thank again the ADAI group that is taking care of this organization of the webinars, very well attended and very perfectly organized. We have also had, as I told you, some webinars, so you can find this information in this section events. So with this, I stop my presentation. I wish all of you all the best for the continuation of this meeting, and I give back the word to Professor Domingos Viegas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you also for the kind remarks that you made towards my team. And I would immediately like to ask Julia Faga and Claudia Morsut to give an overview on the roadmap project bulletins and thematic papers. This is just to set the stage for the discussion that we'll have afterwards, in which we invited colleagues, coordinators or representatives from other EU projects that are addressing also these problems. Unfortunately, there are many projects in Europe dealing with risk management, and it was not easy for us to choose to select some of them. So we thank those who had accepted our invitation and to share with us this knowledge. And this is something that the European Commission is looking forward to have more and more in the future, this interaction and connection between the projects. So please, Julia and Claudia, the floor is yours for the next 20 minutes, please.
Good morning. Do you see my screen?
Excuse me,
yes,
Andrea,
Julia, yes.
Andrea, did you ask did you raise your hand, Andrea? Do you want to say something?
No, sorry, was a wrong, was my mistake, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I am Julia Faga, a researcher of Youth Centre Foundation, and in the roadmap project, I am the person in charge of the publication of bulletins. In this presentation, Claudia Morsut and I will present the workflow that led to the creation of bulletins and the thematic paper with the related problems and possible future developments. One of the main objectives of the roadmap project is to collect, analyze, and review good practices, recommendations, lessons learned in prevention, preparedness, and response in the disaster risk management field. To achieve this goal, various actions have been implemented in the project, including the design and realization of bulletin and thematic papers. In particular, the bulletin are the results of a constant scanning of good practices in disaster risk management and use innovation performed on the web, also based on suggestion and supporting material from the advisory group of the project. The bulletin in the project were conceived as a few pages document with a bi-monthly publication aimed at decision makers, which had to report the results of an initial selection of good practices. In each publication, we have collected good practices relating to the management of an emergency in a multi-risk perspective, and we have not focused on a single phase of the disaster risk management cycle, but we have tried to analyze all the phases of the cycle. The main structure of the bulletin includes a section dedicated to the project and its development, followed by an introduction to the chosen topic, a section dedicated to selected good practices, and a section dedicated to the disaster risk management initiatives and news on the topic. Because the publication of the bulletin is very frequent, and because it's not really easy to find good practices, the definition of topic, of themes of the bulletins was made in the early stages of the projects. And when we define this topic, we decide to select a topic that tried to take into consideration current issues, like as you can see, the impact of the pandemic on emergency management, forest fire emergency management and associated risk, management of floods and landslide risk, management of volcanic eruption and associated risk, management of climate change and food supply, and by the end of the May, we will publish the 7th bulletin on management of industrial accident and environmental pollution. Instead, the first and the last bulletin are dedicated to the development and the results of the project. But what was the procedure for selecting data? The problem of this type of selection is that the disaster risk management good practices are not easily to find, and when even when available, are available in a non-structured form. So for this reason, one of the first phases of this part of the project was to understand where to find relevant information and how to make a first selection of the found good practices. For sure, scientific papers, reports, civil protection protocols, humanitarian networks, and governative website were the starting point for the good practices selection. In fact, they allowed us to learn about tools, websites, research projects, and documents which contain possible good practices. Once found these tools and documents, we try to make a selection of good practices, choosing those are already validated in different situations, more situations throughout exercise or emergencies, and coming from reliable sources like for the region mentioned above, in the bulletin, there is no space to describe every single good practices. But we decide to include in the part of the bulletin dedicated to the good practices, the abstract and the references of the documents in which the good practices can be found. As a first consideration, we could say that during the selection, we have seen that for certain topics and phases, it is possible to find a lot of materials, while for others it is very difficult to find good practices. And this is issue will be discussed by Claudia Morsud after. With this, I have concluded the part related bulletins, and I leave the floor to Claudia Morsut for the thematic papers and issues and future developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Giulia. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. I will continue now, and Giulia will flop the slides on my behalf to avoid the changes on the screen. So I'm Claudia Morsut. I'm representing the University of Stavanger in Norway, one of the partners of Roadmap, and I am an associate professor in societal security here in Stavanger. And I was responsible to follow the development and implementation and writing of 3 thematic papers. The goal of the thematic papers was to provide a critical review on about good practices inside and outside the European Union. And the topics of these 3 thematic papers were chosen based on several topics that we propose inside the Roadmap project proposal. And these several topics were submitted to the attention of our Roadmap advisory group. And then in accordance to them, we choose 3 main topics. Next, please. The thematic papers are slightly, if not very much different from the bulletins. They are, first of all, standalone documents, longer than the bulletins. We try to keep these documents within 30 pages. As I said, we foresaw 3 publications, and we choose a wider target audience, not only decision makers, but also the scientific community and risk and crisis managers. In all the 3 thematic papers, we try to explore the chosen topic in a multi-risk and scenario-based perspective. And actually, these 3 thematic papers were written by experts. So as soon as we decided for the topic, we launched a call of experts. And for each thematic paper, we had 2 experts who wrote the content, and a small group of Roadmap experts follow the development of and writing. And then all the 3 thematic papers have the Sendai framework as guideline to categorize, evaluate, and extract good practices. Next, please. So here in this slide, you can see the 3 topics we chose. The first one was, to some extent, a thematic paper that sought to set the context of the full Roadmap project looking at good practices in multi-hazard risk scenarios. So we sought to find good practices within a situation where we had the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic, or hopefully the pandemic which is going towards an end, and another risk or hazard happening at the same time. The second and third paper, they are still in the writing phase. The thematic paper 2 is soon to be launched, and the thematic paper 3 also will be finished, hopefully at the beginning of June. And in the second, we look again at good practices in risk crisis communication, also from a multi-hazard risk perspective. And we did the same for these two very important and relevant policies, building back better and leaving no one behind. And as I just said, we use the Sendai framework as our, let's say, guideline to select and extract these good practices. Next, please. And here you can see again, as much as we did for the bulletins, we follow a pattern. We started, of course, with an overview of scientific papers, reports, projects, the European Union website, especially the DG ECHO website. And of course, we look at national governments, what they produced. So we collected information through these 5 sources. And then we use the Sendai framework as a sort of analytical framework, again, to select good practices. In the first thematic paper, the Sendai framework was used in terms of looking at good practices that to some extent mirror the targets, the priorities, and the guiding principles. Sorry, whereas in the second and the third, we try to refine in a way our research by actually establishing criteria based on certain articles of the Sendai framework, which were touching the topic that we wanted to address in each thematic paper. Next, please, Julia. Here, I and Julia tried to summarize some of the issues we actually met, both in the writing of the bulletins and in the writing of the thematic papers. Let's say there are common issues, except perhaps for the last one. First of all, we argue that there is actually a huge challenge here, that it needs to be addressed in a way or the other. What are actually good practices? And how can we distinguish good practices from lesson learned and recommendations? And we sought actually to do this in the first thematic paper by giving a concrete and definition of what good practices are. But we posit that there is still quite a lot to do. And then, of course, there is, especially for those belonging to the academic world, a terminology issue. We discovered that working and reading sources belonging to different disciplines, belonging to national governments, agencies working on the field, there is a discrepancy in the terminology, in how issues are addressed and defined. Then, both in the bulletins and in the thematic papers, we chose, by purpose, of course, to use an heterogeneity of sources. But of course, this gave us the challenge on how to organize these sources and how also to label and categorize the information we use. And then there is something that we actually find missing in our writing of these bulletins and thematic papers. We found some very interesting ex post reports, and for ex post reports we mean reports giving us information about good practices or lesson learned and recommendations written after the negative event was concluded, mainly by the Red Cross. But we were a bit surprised that there were not several of these ex post reports, which could have been very, very useful to extract good practices. And one of the reasons we of course made the mainly hypothesis was time constraints, but also probably the lack of resources inside these agencies to sit and around the desk and actually put down in a written form good practices or lessons learned. And then we wrote in English. Both the bulletins and the thematic papers are written in English language. And of course, English, as you all know, is a language that can reach a quite wide audience. But at the same time, we're very much aware that especially local disaster management managers working in the field at local level, perhaps several of them don't manage or don't master the English language. And so to some extent, what we publish in Roadmap is highly probable that it's not reaching this kind of audience. And then also we raise ourselves the question how to share the material. Are all the reference documents really accessible for the audience we want to reach? And then the third and last issue that we want to share with you is, it was mainly an issue raised by the thematic papers. By choice, again, the thematic papers were addressing or are addressing a wider audience, both policymakers, risk managers, civil protection managers, and of course, academics. I'm saying, of course, because I belong to the academia. And the goal was, to some extent, to further reduce the science policy divide, but still to find a balance in writing a thematic paper that is addressing both science and policy. It's not at all an easy endeavor. So we wonder all the time if we were managing to find this good balance. Next, Julia, I don't know if you want to add something or if I can just go, thank you, to the next and last slide, where we tried to find some partial answers. Of course, this is an ongoing process. And this is why the process, I think personally, is so interesting and challenging in a positive way. I think, or we think actually, that for future developments, especially on the research side, we really need to we should be really able to define better, also from mainly from a theoretical also viewpoint, what lessons learned are and what good practices are. And again, we really hope that what we have done in the thematic paper 1 is a good starting point, a solid starting point, scientifically speaking. Then, of course, this is a never-ending challenge to define a common terminology that is embraced and understood by all the parties we want to address. Policymakers, again, risk managers, civil protection agencies, and so on. And then a future development that we wish to promote is what we have called in this slide a single point of access to share information on collected materials. And in this sense, we believe that the work the European Commission is doing with these knowledge centers, with the newly established civil protection network platform, all these initiatives in a way are going in this sense to create these huge platforms where you can reach and find a lot of information. But of course, there is still quite a lot of work to do. And then there is the issue of language. We would like to promote more, let's say, a better approach to actually think that all our work should be constantly translated in multiple language. Of course, English is the main language we use, but still, how to reach local agencies, how to reach local risk managers who are not mastering the English language, to share our research and our findings. And then again, to further reduce the divide policy science, we need perhaps a better strategical thinking on how to involve policy and decision makers in research. And again, this is part of a process. We don't think we have the answers with the roadmap, but I think all the projects under the call of roadmap to some extent have sought to address these future developments. And with this, I want to conclude this first presentation on the roadmap behalf. I would like to thank my colleague Julia, and I would like to thank, of course, the audience listening to us. And if you have any question, please use the chat, and we are more than happy to answer to your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Julia and Claudia, for your presentation. This gives all the attendants an overview of the work of the project. Later, Nicola Reber will also speak about another project of another product of our project. But now let's listen to the contribution from our guests from other projects. And I would like to invite Galia Terzieva from Project CRISPR, if you want to share your screen. But before doing so, let me remind all the attendants that you can ask questions using the questions and answer box. You can write them, and we will receive. And in the after the presentation, after all presentation, there will be a period of debate in which we will address these questions. So please, Galia, you are welcome to share your screen if you want.
Thank you. I'll try to demonstrate my technical skills with Zoom. Once again, I hope it works. Share. I'll try to share different screens. My name is Galia Terzieva, and I'm coordinating a project which is named CRISPR. This is a project which is referring to security and protection from knowledge synergies. And I'm very happy that within 18 months, all of the networks, the first kickoff networks that have been launched by DG ECO, that we manage even with the facilitation of DG ECO and our proactive approach to meet and to communicate and to exchange a lot of information. I'm very happy to be at this event because I see that we are more and more people within our huge community in European Union and outside of the Union who are thinking in the same way. So it's for me, it's very positive and very promising for the future of the database policies and database strategies that can further support proactive people and people with innovative and smart approach how to solve out issues, because we are living in an environment where crises and disasters are multiplying and evolving. And as we are getting into a globalized world, we start considering the part of the positive and some negative impacts, because practically the crisis management related issues are very much impacted by one of the mega trends. And this mega trend is that rapid development, smartening of economy and globalization of economy, and coming out with that trends, deterioration of the social and health conditions in which we are living, and also climate conditions. Our project was focused also on the target group that the previous speaker already addressed, and all speakers were talking about. We tried to put together science, civil protection authorities, crisis management authorities, practitioners with real first responders. And we try to map positive and negative experiences in order to develop multi-hazards open tool for planning and risk assessment. It's not ideal. It's maybe very simple. We try to collect, first of all, within the project, we defined the existing trends within multi-hazards in order to know on which type of risk assessment approach we are going to focus. So we had a kind of a research which was cross different sectors, involved different actors in many countries. We involved in our network all the Balkan countries, Austria, Finland, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Slovakia, the Czech Republic. We have quite broader network of partners, and we try all the time to involve highly positioned decision makers, and also the decision makers from the middle management and decision makers from the local management, mayors and villages and towns in different countries, and in order to assess exactly their needs. And our idea was to assess the trends in multi-hazards, and based on that, we collected case studies that we'll be happy to transfer it to all partners and even to partners of roadmap, because maybe you can use those case studies for different purposes to improve other steps in risk assessment. We use these case studies to develop a kind of a benchmark on 5 different multi-hazards prone events. We develop a benchmarking tool to try to assess what are the capacities, equipment, measures, and intervention types that are needed within 5 typical and expected in the future multi-hazards events. This was our idea, and based on that, to develop the online tool, which is very basic. I'll show it to you. Our tool is stressing on the interdependencies of modern threats, risks, and we focus on the need for economic efficiency, because crises are expanding the bubble of public finances, and also finances. Today, insurance companies are trying also to include in their contracts more specific and more detailed restrictions and clauses, because they see that they will not be able in the future to cover insured objects of interest if it keeps going like that. It means that this economic efficiency is very important, and it's very important because to persuade the voters in each country that investment in the risk is the most important, and that we need to invest in data structuring and data collection. This is it's very difficult. I suppose that all of you, no matter in which country you are living, that you face that problem. These problems are faced even in Switzerland. That it's for them the country which has maybe the best crisis management risk security models established, that they also have problems to convince the voters that it's very important to invest in security and safety, and crisis management and civil protection is part of that. So it's still, there is that gap that we need a lot to do. I say we because I consider that we all, it's maybe our mission and our responsibility that we are those who can try to, on one side, to work closer with all decision makers, and on the other side to develop very interesting awareness and social programs for all type of actors, and even for the general public, because general public in certain moment of evolving disasters, the public is becoming also part of our staff, also part of our support teams that can intervene in any reaction or in the recovery, and they are important also for the greater awareness of adopting and accepting measures, because the measures for protection and building of resilience towards risks is something that should be accepted by everybody. To have this concise approach. So that's why even communication is very important. And our tool is trying also to examine the challenges in the context of the community response practices. So this tool is not, it's not on developed for very sophisticated analysis. It's very simple tool. And we try to link the system adoption with political and economic provisions, and to determine changes in structural and non-structural prevention measures, because it costs money and it also costs a change of mindset. In many cases, it requires changing not only of legislation and investment in capitals, but it also requires changing of attitudes and behaviors of people. I'll skip some of the slides because I have limited time. Why it's important to valorize and capitalize. This is what we did within the preparation of the tool, that we try to assess all the hazards, the drivers, and then to assess also the good practices and the bad practices in mitigating or reacting and recovering from particular hazards and their risks. And we focus a lot on adequate equipment, effective response in such crisis, in ad hoc arrangements concerning the situational awareness, and ad hoc leadership communication, which is for us, it's very important. We focus on those details because they are very important on local level for the mayors. We wanted to communicate the risk assessment and the mitigation of risk or disaster risk reduction and management, the management of the risk to communicate within as a social importance. For that, we stressed on and accentual on the critical infrastructure disruptions caused by pandemics, the damages from natural disasters, scarcity of food, water, migration due to drought. Today we have migration due to wars in neighboring countries, epidemic in combination with public disorder, smartening of the systems, and landslides linked to public infrastructure, tourism affected by earthquakes. These, 8 examples are considered by the partners who have been involved, engaged in our activities as trends ongoing in our countries, or in general in the European Union and in the neighboring countries. Then we, based on the data collected, we defined categories of the assessment tool. We have type of threats, risk actions, prevention, strategic planning, and different type of vulnerable groups. In the part 1 of the tool, we have a definition of the type of disruption. And in the beginning, we developed it in a very long list. We used the last register of UNDSR from April 2021, and then we consulted that tool with students studying risk assessment and disaster risk management, and we confronted them with, within a hackathon with mayors and local actors, practitioners, and they said that for them too many details, it's a kind of a burden, if that they needed to be more structured and in grouped, that for them they will understand it within their reality. Then we listed, of course, some subcategories of threats based on that experience. Then we defined the drivers, because for us these drivers are very important. We think that we need any time in the risk assessment also to take into consideration either we call them megatrends, drivers, or whatever. It's something that can be at certain moment triggering or multiplying the effect and the negative impact of a certain hazard. We define the type of agents also that can be causing or be the source of the hazard, because this hazard can be stationary, it can be sleeping hazard, and it can be somehow woken up. Within multi-hazards, we tried also to define the list of typical multi-hazards. It means that those using that tool, even if they don't know anything about multi-hazards, if they find a structured list of multi-hazards, they will start thinking about that. So it doesn't mean that the person who is using that tool will be using that tool to support the local risk assessment process, but it also will be used as an awareness tool for them to learn from the others. The tool, maybe it's better that I just share the tool directly. If you consider it will be, or I just go. This tool was developed on, finally we decided with the students that we skip the complex scientific approach to risk assessment, and we really simplify it and make it very simple just for local use, because we would like to target the local managers, crisis managers. Sorry for that. That's why we divided the tool into main two groups, that we have a group of vulnerability against the group of equipment, general preparedness, and capacity. So we introduced two levels of that tool, and we assigned different points, and we assigned between 4 or 5 levels of the risk. So then by filling that online questionnaire, the system behind the system, which is not visible for the users, they are points. So they don't know that what is, how is calculated and point ranked, in order to avoid that some people they're trying, to manipulate these figures. So we have decided with the students that we follow the vulnerability as a system vulnerability, physical vulnerability, which considers the affected critical, strategic, and soft targets. Community vulnerability, we assess within the community vulnerability all type of assets, tangible and non-tangible, including also the moral and mental and behavior part of the issues of the context and discourses in the community. We have special topic on health vulnerability, because we go to many different types of groups with different health or developmental issues, so we need to take care for them. Social vulnerability, environment, and financial vulnerability. These are our type of vulnerabilities. Of course, we'll be very happy if we can share with all of you the link of that tool, and if we get any feedback, positive, negative, the best is the negative impact, negative feedback, because we can learn what we can change there, because we would like to improve it. it will be very good to see the reaction of everybody. The same for the capacity. We split the capacity, the scoring card for the capacities, actors, assets, policies, knowledge. We have special one capacity for the knowledge, because we, based on the case studies and surveys, we consider that most of the interviewed people, and within this case study, they consider that their knowledge and experience was the basic of everything. No matter what type of equipment they have for taking a decision, the most important is to have this knowledge, and the experience, and especially access to data and access to good quality of data and access to new technologies, for technologies that can help them to reconnaissance the evolving disaster and etc. I'm focusing on the knowledge, once again stressing, because we know that in each country, the local level of mayors who are changing every 4 years, usually in all European unions, that the voting period is, the credentials are for 4 years. So if the mayor doesn't get another period, it means that we change. We have a great fluctuations of practically the crisis managers on local level, dealing with many local or cross-regional extraordinary events or disasters, and we need to find a way how to transfer all these new technologies, data, etc., to their level, because we can work on national level. But if we don't find a way how to transfer it to local level, it might be a kind of a disbalance, because our big pictures and very sophisticated scenarios and everything, it can be brilliant, but if it's not usable or able to be practically involved in the work of the mayors, the whole community from the ground will not be ready to accept and to adopt and to be better aware in the sense of risk management. Then I said the scaling of the risk, and one part of our tool is about scenarios. This part is not finalized, because we still are thinking how to develop it. We would like to have a kind of one part of the dashboard of that tool that can attract all partners to make their own simple scenarios. So we, based on the case studies we prepared, we computed all the data as scenarios. It will be nice if this is what just popped up in my mind, that maybe it was our mistake or lack of time or press of time that we could have addressed all partners from the other networks, because I see that you have also your different case studies, and it will be very good to give them that scenario. Most of the practitioners, why I'm talking about the scenarios, apart from the preparedness and awareness and etc., which is part of the assessment, these scenarios are very good for the mayors and first responders on local and regional level, because they say that for us it's very important to have not only our knowledge local, but we would like to have even the knowledge from other countries. And instead of investing a lot of money or waiting for the next disaster from that type in our village, it's better to know how the village in France or in Norway, how they sort it out. So if for most of the practitioners, it's very experienced. Even we had a meeting in Chambéry with one general there, and he said that, and I mean, I fully respect him because he's like a top crisis manager. He said that the most important is not only local, but multinational experience, because in each country we have different approach, even working habits, processes, and it's very good to learn from the others. He said this is something that you don't need to invest 10 years in learning. It's just you read somewhere, or you have a discussion with people who already solved certain problem. So that's why we have those scenarios. This is just for demonstrating events that had happened in other countries. Now I'll try to share screen with the tool. I try to share. First, I can share you that this is our website. Our website, it has also presents or promotes similar activities. Of course, we are not, our activities were driven more on from the crisis managers or practitioners. So if you find that we are not too much science oriented, just let us know. We tried otherwise in all of our events and online webinars involve even anytime we involved at least one university from different country. Even we involved the Disaster Risk Management Institute from Southeast Asia. Because we found out that we know that in Southeast Asia, the investments of international donors community within the risk mitigation is much higher than in European Union, for example. But maybe we learn from there. We found out that we are practically on the same track. We are using different similar technologies and similar novelties of software solutions. So we have a lot of presentations and webinars that can. Yes, we have to finish. Okay, we have to finish. I just showed the. Yes, do you see now that tool? Do you see the tool?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the simple. I just show it and I'll finish. This is the simple tool. Everybody comes to that website. I can send it to you to check it. It's you create your own, you open your own card and you go through it. You have the disaster, extraordinary event, hazard. First, to describe it somehow. There are lists you can select. And then we have vulnerability, exposure, and capacity. These are the two simple categories. And once you finish it, it appears something like that, that you get a rating of your risk level. Plus, it's possible to edit your card anytime, and you can open as many as you like cards, and you can read the cards of the other partners. Then you have the scenario, which is also based on assessment, scenario, knowledge for intervention. I try to, it's also like ID card. We have it very simple. Yeah, scenario, knowledge for that, equipment, support intervention actors, recovery measures, legal measures, and mitigation measures. So this is very basic things that can be done, and each mayor or whoever can play with that, but can also learn. So it will be, I would like to thank very much for the time that you have given to me, because I see that there is a huge interest to that event, and I hope that we can find a way how to integrate all these already developed tools and solutions, and how we can maybe develop one generator where all that informations are at one place. So thank you very much for your attention once again.
Thank you, Galia, from our side, from the Roadmap project, and also from all the audience. It was great that you shared with us the findings of your project, which we see that are very, have many things in common with our Roadmap project. And if the webinar finished now, I would say that it has been useful, because we learned lots of things from you, and we see that we can share knowledge and experiences. But I'm sure also that the other projects will also bring us new and enriching things. And I will immediately welcome Panayotis Kolios from the University of Cyprus, from the Arteon project, if you want also to give us your experience on these risk management policies. please.
Yes, yes, of course. Thank you for your introduction. Can you confirm that you can see my screen and hear me well?
Yes, that's right.
Great, great. So thanks everyone for your time. So yeah, I'm a research assistant professor at the University of Cyprus, and I'm the technical coordinator of the Arteon Knowledge Network, where we aim to use and technological tools to develop algorithms, machine learning algorithms for emergency response. And the aim of the project is to investigate how these algorithms can help out first responders during different phases of disaster management. So I'll just go through a few introductory things about the group, and then later show what we are doing for collecting data, annotating data, and then training algorithms to help out in decision making. So the University of Cyprus is in Nicosia, in the island of Cyprus, and we are part of the GEO Center of Excellence within the University of Cyprus, which hosts the center within the university campus and employs around 180 researchers in mostly in electrical and computer engineering, computer science, some physicists, mathematicians, and civil engineers. And we focus on protection and management of critical infrastructures. Critical infrastructures are energy systems, water systems, transportation systems, healthcare systems, and telecommunication systems. And there is a big group within the center that works on emergency response technologies. And this group, just mentioning that within the last 2 years, we have been very busy in developing all the emergency response systems for the Ministry of Health to help out the Republic of Cyprus with combating the COVID pandemic. So all the systems that have been running for the last 2.5 years in Cyprus for COVID, they have been developed from scratch during the pandemic. So it was a very challenging task for us. And we have been developing all the technology that I will show later on within Horizon funded projects, competitive funded projects from Horizon, DG ECHO, DG Home, and of course the national funding instruments in Cyprus. So we have a lot of hardware since we are a technology focused group. So we have a lot of hardware, computers, data centers, embedded devices, drones, as you see here, clusters of computers that we process all the information, sensors, and so on. And the aim is to participate in field exercises with first responders to understand their needs, collect valuable data, and then use that data to train algorithms on extracting useful information that first responders can use to take informed decisions. So here I have some screenshots. On the top left is a large international exercise on earthquakes. We have maritime exercises for oil spills. This was from on the top right from Greece a few years back. We participate in a lot of flooding exercises that happen in Cyprus, search and rescue exercises, and so on. And also we have been asked to go to real incidents and help out during the real incidents. So in Cyprus last year, we had a lot of big fires, uncontrolled fires happening in the island, as of course with all of Europe. And the aim there was to go during the night where the manned aircraft couldn't fly and localize the hotspots of the fires and enable the firefighters to have a real-time picture of what was happening in order to be able to continue with their efforts in the early days of the next day. Yeah, so within the Arteon project, we have been trying to extract what is there in these large-scale disasters, like forest fires, floods, earthquakes, and of course the pandemic. What is it that is very useful for the first responders to get insights from? So, for example, for fires, we collected a lot of feedback from the different first responders that we have collaborated within the project and in past projects to extract this information. For instance, the flame of the height is very important, the temperature of the fire, the spread rate is very important, of course, the weather conditions, where are the teams and means. So all this useful information that first responders need, we tried then to extract that information from machine learning algorithms that use data received during the emergency. So we use these algorithms to help out first responders in many different parts of the decision-making process. So, for example, systems that make forecasts of what is happening in the near future, decision support systems of where to put your effort and resources in order to make the biggest impact during the disaster, for example, in the response of the disaster, and of course, how to make preventive efforts and then recovery efforts at the end of the disaster. So we have identified all these ways that machine learning algorithms can be used, and then within the project we try to give first responders some insights on what these machine learning algorithms are and how they could be used in practice. And of course, this all is possible now because of the availability, the high availability of computing resources, the ease of collecting data nowadays from different exercises and real situations, and the improvements in technology with respect to AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning algorithms. So I'll give you some examples here to get an understanding of what we mean with these algorithms. So for example, it's very easy from camera feeds, so images, to detect objects. As you see here, we are just demonstrating how you can detect and track different objects that could be people, cars, whatever other objects of interest there are, and show where they are on a map. So the location of these objects, and also the speed of traveling of these objects, and the pattern, the mobility patterns that are following. So another example here is for a drone that not only detects these objects. In this case, we demonstrate the detection of both, but also track, so follow these objects as it's moving around. And this is important, for example, if you want to see where your first responders are and where your first responders are moving during a disaster. Another example is that we did for a project with a collaboration with the electricity authority here in Cyprus, which falls into the prevention measures, is to fully automate the inspection of the medium voltage and high voltage power lines with machine learning algorithms that control this drone that is seen on the video, and instructing the drone to go and visit all the infrastructure and detect if there are damaged infrastructure or also vegetation that is very close to this power infrastructure, and during it could be a high risk during the summer seasons to cause a fire around the infrastructure. So the idea here is it should detect all these obstacles and risks, and then inform the authorities to go and clean these areas before the summer season. So this is a fully autonomous system based on machine learning algorithms for detecting and tracking and assessing the risk of this infrastructure for the case of ignition of fires during the summer season. In addition, what we have done for the numerous fires that happened, the actual fires that happened in Cyprus last year, we have been collecting all this data from the after the fire to assess the damage that was done in the field. So we collected a lot of information, gigabytes of data, and we tried to provide maps, 2D and 3D maps of the damaged area, and then assess the damage that was caused. So how much of the land was burned, in which extent it was burned, all the vegetation that was destroyed, and so on. In addition, what we have been doing is trying to introduce these machine learning algorithms for both mobile applications that the first responders can use with their smartphones, and also web applications through computer PCs. So the idea here is to provide, to collect data from these smartphones, and then using the machine learning algorithms that I demonstrated before to extract information about the health of the first responder, what the first responder is observing with, let's say, a picture that he took, and inform the incident commander of the real situation in the area. So overall, this is the benefits of using machine learning algorithms, because they can extract valuable information from a lot and heterogeneous sources of sensors. So for all these scenarios that I mentioned before, you can use different cameras, different environmental sensors, and so on, that produce a lot of data. And the aim here is to process all this information and provide the responders and the incident commanders only with the valuable information about the collected data. So I'll stop here. Thank you for listening, and I'm glad to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Panayotis. If you allow me, although you did not use all your time, we will leave the discussion for the period of debate. And once again, I invite all the attendees, if you want to put questions, you can write them in the question and answers box, and also say the name of the person to whom you are addressing your question. We have already collected some questions. The members of the panel can use also the chat, and they can also ask questions later directly raising their hands, so we can have a live debate later on. But in the benefit of time, let us continue, and I will give the word to Nicola Reber. He is from the project, and he will present another product of Roadmap, which is the Solutions Explorer, that has very much to do with these good practices that we are collecting. Nicola, the floor is yours, please, for the next 20 minutes.
Thank you, Domingos. I'm sharing my screen. Let's see if it's working properly. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's okay.
Oh.
It's not in the presentation mode, if you want to.
Okay. Okay. So basically, now we are presenting another piece, as Professor Viegas said, of the Roadmap project. And this is a more, let's say, technological solution that is has been conceived in this project to help collecting and systematizing the good practices that can be found both at the beginning through the research and of the thematic paper of the bulletins, but in general, the idea is to have this Solutions Explorer as open to be open to the, let's say, the general public and to be able, in order to let a general public or expert to upload their own good practices following, let's say, an approach that I will present here. Basically, this is the point, and within the roadmap scheme where the Solution Explorer is. And what is a Solution Explorer? Is general, let's say, open source web platform that, and now maybe if we have some time that we show you online the solution explorer is an open platform that will enable the project stakeholder and eventually at the end will be open to the general public to collect and find good practices in disaster risk management according to the criteria we have decided. And the idea is to have this as a tool for that should be flexible enough to host good practices in DRM coming from different levels of governance, different scales, different risk. So in order to try to systematize them in a way that can be useful for, let's say, people that is looking for specific solutions or application in the DRM field. Basically, we started from this scheme, so dividing the Solution Explorer into three main areas. The first one is called Solutions 2, and basically is reporting describing a single good practice in terms of if is in application of EU regulation, if is related to this Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction in terms of targets and priority of action, and if is or can be applied in one or more phases of the disaster risk management cycle. Then there is, let's say, the second option, the menu, or is related to the characteristic of the practice, which are the scales, temporal and geographical, where the good practice is applied, and which are the risk elements that will be considered or are considered by the good practice. So divided in type of risk and asset at risk. These are the two elements that we need to focus more the search process. And then the features. So additional feature that can be useful for understanding at a glance the objective, the scope of the good practice. So which are the beneficiaries in terms of, for instance, citizens, decision makers, and vulnerable people, the actors involved. So on the other side is who are the main actors developing or using the good practice. The challenge is that the good practice is focused on and try to face, and the solution types, because of course these solutions can range from IT tools, as we said also during this the previous presentation, to recommendation, scientific products, technical regulation. So let's say in this way we can allow to have many, let's say, try to have all the full description of the good practice. And of course we add also where you can find example of this good practice. I will show you now some offline features, but then we can move to the online version so we can maybe experience a bit more how the system is working. So this is, you can access to the solution explorer. You can, of course, have direct access, but you can also register, and I will show you the registration process that will allow you also to put good practices that you may have collected and you want to share with a larger community. Basically, these are the main features. So the three menus are solutions to, characterized by, and solution features. You can select some let's say a scenario. So using the choice, the multiple choices, and then clicking on find solution, go and look at a specific solution, and then have a description with links to the solution you have selected. Of course, one of the aspects that would be has been discussed during the development of the solution explorer is a methodology for the good practices collection, because at the beginning we are collecting also the good practices that should be, and that we are putting right now in the within the solution explorer, that by itself is an empty platform with a lot of features, but needs content and scientific content, contribution from the different first responders, of course, a scientist, local community. So this is allowed to also be a place where different kind of actor can interact and have also share different examples on how they intend or understand something as a good practice. But the first thing is we develop a kind of questionnaire where that is also used for profiling the users within the solution explorer. So understanding who is the expert that is providing the good practice, and then describing the good practice in terms of basic fact implementation, which can be the monitoring, and describe let's say all these points can help us in really collecting the contribution from different stakeholders. And as a main conclusion, let's say we may say that the Solutions Explorer was inspired by a Gap Explorer of Disaster Risk Management Knowledge Center. And as I said, it's an open source platform, and that can help in searching and browsing this solution in disaster risk management. The idea is to put in and trying to make it really interoperable with other DRMKC resources, and try to link it with existing relevant databases, like the Project Explorer, for instance, developed by CERIS. In general, let's say that, of course, that this Solution Explorer will be available from project partners, stakeholders, but then can be eventually open to the external institution, because I think that this is really a tool for engaging, let's say, and fostering the work of this knowledge network related to the PCM. So it's a tool that can help also in sharing and let's say discussing or what is in our idea a good practice, and how to use this good practice for helping other communities to understand better the situations, if there are other communities, nation, stakeholders that already faced similar problems and propose some solutions. Let me, if I have some more minutes, let me go through the Solution Explorer, and let me start the Can you see my screen?
Not yet. We are still seeing. Okay, now.
Okay, that's perfect. So you basically this is the first page. You can log in, and of course, in this case, I've already registered. When you go in, you will see a dashboard with your profile. I'm let me say the administrator, so I can add from with my permission manage many things, but I will show. So you can edit in your profile, say who you are, what are your competencies, and which is your role, and then check put, or you can first of all start, say, okay, I want to upload a new good practice, and then you can write field, for instance, this field that are the title, the description, the action proposed by the good practice, and then fill this list that will help other people to really find your solution in a way, in a proper way, because you can decide if it's in application of EU PCM, EU regulations, more than try to understand, or if you want to say, okay, is achieving some of the target reduced mortality, for instance, from Sendai, and then let's say put which is the DRM cycle phase is basically focused on them. There are multiple choices, of course. The type of risk, let me say, just to, and the temporal scale, the asset at risk, let me say, population, and so on. So basically, you can then add resources at that link. If you save, you can save the new resource, and of course there is an error, but this always happens when these actions, for instance, you see, you cannot leave in blank the action field, because of course I'm putting just a really quick example and see if it's okay. Now is saved. and then you can find all the solution. We have, for instance, some solution that are waiting, and you can preview it. For instance, this is the one I just created, and it's quite slow, the network. And now you can see here the information I just put in the let's say solution I just sketched before. I can, but you can have, for instance, this is a good practice that is waiting for approval, so you can preview it. And this is an example of good practice with the description, the action, and all the information needed. And also with the link, because of course you may upload or files or link to specific websites that are describing more in detail the good practice. And then of course, you may, as an administrator, let's say, let me say, edit the good practice. Say, okay, I want to change or to add some element, for instance, action for preparedness. Let me say, save and close. And then you can also as another option, you can decide to approve a specific good practice. So if you go on edit again, you can change the status from waiting, that is not available to the general public, to approved. Save and close, and then this would be in, if you go into the approved menu, you see let's say the National Drug Management Policy Guidelines approved, and then of course you can delete them. And then manage I can manage also the users of allowing people to accept access to this good practice. Last thing, so I will be finishing time, is if we have access, so to want to browse a solution, say, okay, let me check which are solution. So you can select more than one. Let's start with the reduced mortality. And then you will see, as an example here, practices. Some of them have already been approved. Those who are not approved are shown, of course, but not in clear. So you can understand that there is a practice so the total number of practice you are looking for, but let's say is not yet approved by one of the administrator or project partners. If you click on one of these good practice, you can have access to the full description of the disaster preparedness, the action, the phases, and the source, who posted this solution, and so on. So I think we can stop here.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Will you be so kind to stop sharing, please?
Okay.
screen.
I don't know why it's not allowing me to stop sharing, but I will check. Okay, no, it was hidden the button. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. So you showed this product of the project, and we'll of course discuss it. We have already some questions addressing it. But to conclude the presentation of the speakers, I would like now to invite Kalliopi Kravari to speak on the whole of the Resistant project. It's a project on training and knowledge sharing platform for first responders, educational tools, and students and citizens against natural man-made disasters and risks. So, Kalliopi, you have 20 minutes, please.
Thank you. Let me share my presentation. Okay. Resistant project actually is about the first, let's say, training and knowledge sharing platform for first responders. And of course, our aim is to provide some tools for students and citizens. So I'm going to present you our work here. The project consists of 7 partners, 4 countries, and it's about to finish as the rest of the projects. We, as the International Hellenic University, are the coordinator of this project, and we have partners from academia, companies, and of course, first responders and civil protection authorities. So the overall object of Resistant project is to build the first European crisis training platform. So we have 3 main concepts, let's say. The first one is the educational training. So at this step, we study the state of the art and, of course, tools that can be used for hazards and risks. The second part is about operational training, and here we study mock-up real-scale transport cases. And the last one, it's a VR/AR training, which actually was not only interesting, but really helpful for everyone, because we were able to reproduce an entire accident or another scenario and let first responders, citizens, stakeholders to participate and have a better understanding of the event. So as far as concerns our objectives, we started from mapping the status of current initiatives and, of course, other procedures. We proceeded with the implementation of an educational platform, of course, using AR technologies. Then we updated and expanded the training program. So a variety of scenarios were created and used for training purposes. And of course, our ultimate goal is to support civil protection and disaster risk management actors in order to exchange knowledge, good practices, and of course, any expertise. About our strategic objectives, as I said, we will and we already tried to support existing partnerships. So we tried to invite other stakeholders and authorities to participate and get advantage of this platform. So we already had 4 cases that allowed many participants to know better this resistant platform. So we designed a lot of tools, among others. We used VCR, control rooms. I'm going to explain better later about this one. And of course, our platform is not only for training, but also it is about preparedness, which means that the material is available and everyone can take advantage of that, even when the project ends. So we had here at first an observatory of the existing initiatives and training infrastructure. It was an important step for our project because we wanted to understand what other initiatives actually do and how they contribute to the state of the art. So we have already selected and studied more than 60 actually projects. The first 20 was used to create 10 key points, key indicators that allowed us to understand better what other people in the field want to do, or what they want to study, what the needs are actually. So there are some here that we already used and studied. And what we learned from this observatory is that there is a need for technology, mainly for training and early prediction. So everyone assumed that we should think a way and we should find a way to cooperate. We should find a way to collect the information and find a way to collaborate in crisis management. So this was a leading path for us. All efforts in these projects actually targeted at 4 main actions. The first one is the cooperating training, which was addressed here in Resistant. We proposed a cooperation educational procedure. The second action was about collecting information. That's what was an interesting point, because many other projects indicated that we have to try to get information even if it is not so easy or not so clear. For instance, we should use social applications, we should use photos, we should use any type of media, not only data that we gather through platforms or some, let's say, forums, but whenever we can find an interesting example or experience should be collected. The third action was about the development of an alert system. It was about awareness. Of course, there are a lot of things to do here. Our aim was to provide awareness, not only to first responders, but also to help citizens and other groups of involved parties. And of course, the last one was about the crisis management model. Here, there was a need to find a way to merge stakeholders from different countries to develop specific standards. There is a lack of standards, and that's a serious problem here. So we proposed a novel approach using augmented reality. So this was a case that first responders could use augmented reality to guide their behavior and their response. It was an interesting experience, and we believe that it could be used as a standard in training. Here you can see the top 10 key indicators that came out during Resistant project. As we can see here, crisis management, resilience, collaboration are among the first ones. And of course, there are some other which include volunteers, awareness, and preparedness. That was the case for us. We tried to take care everything and try to do the most of the possible contribution that we can have. The next step in this project was the validation demonstration of our approach. We implemented 4 cases. The first one was education and training seminars for students and citizens. The second was about emergency management frameworks. We had a field training for protection from floods. And of course, the last one was about training for awareness and emergency services. So each of these cases were conducted in another country, and more people had the opportunity to participate. So to achieve these goals, we defined some use cases. we set it up an appropriate pilot environment using infrastructure of the International Hellenic University and connectable partners of this project. Then we operated and tested, of course, our solution on these pilot use cases. We validated, of course, our usability, and we let the platform to be freely available to everyone. Now I'm going to give you some presentation about this infrastructure. The first, as I said, the core infrastructure is the training platform itself. It's a dual purpose platform. Here we have two options: to train first responders and to train civilians. So if we have a first responder, he or she will check the relevant material, not everything. Then we used virtual school infrastructure and technology. It's a mixed media approach with augmented reality and virtual reality. We have a virtual control room. Okay, and of course we have the state of the art about an emergency management system. So I'm going to show you the platform. This is the platform. Here we have first responders case and civilians. Everyone can log in depending on its case. Here is the first responders training. We can find here our exercises and material that can be used for its case. The training of first responder section of the other platform has three different subsections: educational training, operational training, and of course the virtual reality training. The civilians, on the other hand, have more opportunities here, as you can see. And here you can have training material for children, for adults, for people with disabilities, and of course training material for the trainers. We try to train the trainers actually, which is really important. Here we can see the virtual school infrastructure. We use 3D miniature modeling in order to reproduce the site, the building, whatever we want to study. And then you can see here some examples. And then you can use an application, an open source application that can be downloaded to a tablet or phone. And then we can have some augmented reality training using, of course, the developed scenario that we have. The virtual school needs, as I said, a smart device too. It's not only the platform, but we need a tablet or something like that. And of course, we need a internet connection in order to download, install the application, and then proceed with the scenario. The VCR room, the virtual control room, is another facility that we have. It is established here in International Hellenic University. It is one of the most complete and modern VCR rooms all over Europe. So here you can train first responders and people that should be trained using a real control room. So you can see here, there is the training room. We have a lot of equipment there. And of course, the trainers room, so we can check trainees. Here you can see an example. And what we also offer is a training course that can be certified using two levels, the fundamental level and the L2 level, the advanced level. So people that took this training can take a certificate too, which is important for them. Here you can see part of the syllabus that we use for the VCR training. We have some introduction in modeling and simulation, and of course we have a lot of what-if scenarios that can be used. Here are some screenshots from the training simulation. You can see that depending on the case, we have a lot of opportunities, for instance, how we should react in chemical accidents or something like that. Here are more from this environment. And the final part is Concord Emergency Management System, which has a lot of parts actually. This system includes incident management tools, team management tools, so we are able to take care of the team and find where they are and try to coordinate them. We have hospital management tools, and we have another tool, which is the patient management tool. So everyone can be connected here and can have some basic measurements about its state. Here you can see some screenshots from this one. And of course, we have an interactive map, which actually can control and help to coordinate the team in the area that the first responders operate. Of course, tracking tools and decision-making tools are also included here. These are tools that can support specialized decisions regarding requirement analysis and what responders should do, where to go. To proceed with this one, we asked the people to participate in a questionnaire. We did that in order to evaluate our, of course, approach and try to find what their needs were. So we analyzed the responses that we received, and we see that most of the people need actions regarding preparedness and response. So all use cases and all material were oriented to these two phases, mainly. Here you can see our advanced training technologies as Resistant proposed them. We have some field operations. We have here the dispatch center, and of course the control room with the trainees, and all of them are controlled from here, the trainer's room. And of course, as I say, the Concord Resistant platform uses more tools in order to facilitate more complicated scenarios actually. And here is our certificate, and just a few words about our pilot use cases, and I will finish my presentation. As I said, 4 cases. The first one was about students and citizens. We used that in some schools in Greece and North Macedonia. We had another case about cross-border management frameworks. We have also some full-scale exercises related to floods. And of course, the last one was about earthquake and tabletop training exercises. I'm not going to say more here. I can reply to any question if you need. We can just see here one of the pilot cases that actually were used. This is about the school. Students reproduced their school, and they used then the AR tool for the augmented reality. So they had here the plan of the school, and they tried to learn how to evacuate their school, how they should react in a case of flood or earthquake. So each case is personalized, and it refers to a specific tool or a specific place. So people that are trained there are trained to their own school, their own place. So that was an interesting contribution, of course, and people took advantage of that. So that's all for us. Thank you. If you need something to ask, I would like to answer, of course.
Thank you very much, Kalliopi, for this very interesting presentation of your project, Resistant, because it brings a new dimension to our risk management, that is of training of different actors. And before we open the debate, let's say the 30 minutes that we have left for the debate period, I'd like to make a general comment about these presentations. The first is to comment how useful I found these presentations of the different projects. Although we are looking at the same problems, possibly with very similar approaches, but they are complementary. Each one of us has our own perspective. We are looking at some particular aspects. So it's good that we cooperate. We are not competing. And especially the problem that you are addressing, that is the risk management, that is a saving of lives, requires the cooperation. And one of the problems that all our projects have is how to continue our work or how our products will be used afterwards, let's say, when the project ends. And for that, it's very important to have this cooperation, because we can leave this legacy for the other projects to continue to work, to extend them, not needing to start from scratch. One of the questions that were raised in the discussion today was the language, how to make these products available to different countries. And even there was a question addressed if this was available in Portugal. Of course, all the products that we develop in the different projects, namely in Roadmap, will be made for the entire Europe. Of course, depending on the work that is done in each country, the problem specific or more interesting for that country will be referred there. But in principle, we intend to make the work available and useful for the entire Europe. Okay, having said these words, I would like to invite Andrea Prota, the coordinator of the project, if you want to address any general comment about the webinar or to start discussion before we actually start the questions that were already raised in the question and answers or in the chat box. Andrea, please.
Domingos, thank you. I don't have specific points rather than thanking all the speakers for their contributions. My thought as I was listening to the interesting presentations is that actually this exchange among different projects point out that we highlight common issues. For example, the fact that the decision makers usually have terms of 3 or 4 years, so the continuity of the actions is not easy to assure, and so forth. So the impact of what we do is strongly related also to the capacity and availability of the bureaucracy and administrative and politicians to give a continuity and implement what we produce in our projects. And I think in this sense, the exchange that today is starting, I think is very fruitful. And my only comment is that any action that we can promote together with the colleagues that today have participated is of great benefit to our research, but also to our citizens. So I would stop here, and as I think the objective of this meeting is specifically to promote thought and comments, raise questions in order to open discussion. So I stop here, Domingos. I give you back the floor in order to manage this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrea. I would like to invite Chiara. You put a question in the chat. Do you want to raise it alive to the speaker that you were addressing? Please. Chiara? Or possibly Chiara is not...
Yeah, I think Domingos, I responded, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, Galia, you raise a question. Do you want to share your thoughts about what you raised and what was the reply that you got?
I was first of all, I'd like also to thank you. It was a good idea. You have a good sense for putting together all speakers, because we are practically tackling one and the same issues, and each of us realizes that, wow, we haven't been thinking about that and the other thing. So it's good that we shared our thoughts, and now we have them in one common platform. I see a lot of opportunities for cooperation. We already exchanged a lot of thoughts about how to share our products. It's a very challenging issue, and I think that maybe we can raise it in a common understanding later, or something similar to the DG Eco, because you find your way to promote, we find our way. It's very important that they find also their way how to promote their products, because we have many projects which are implemented under DG Eco, and more products under Horizon 2020, because there is a special DRS platform priority, and they haven't found a way how to promote it. It will be very important to introduce even artificial intelligence algorithm, how to map the results of those projects, because we know nothing. There are many products, especially in the area of science. And for example, I shared with one of the colleagues from Cyprus that we have developed within another project together with the Ministry of Interior, something very similar to what they have developed, but we don't use special technologies and etc. And it's in that case, we were looking, for example, for ready algorithms for calculating different risks, because it's done, it's everywhere. And it's something that we search, and we consulted with some experts, with some scientists. But if we have, let's say, a data bank of all algorithms, how to calculate the risk concerning earthquake, floods, or etc., it will be good, because in many cases, those who develop the systems, GIS systems or any other data visualized system, they don't need to develop a new algorithm. It's enough to have one common. And if there is a kind of an element concerning the price of the land, the price of the flat, it can be a variable that we can change somehow. But it's very good. I mean, for us, it's very good to know that we have you and your colleagues who have ready algorithms, because this is very important. We don't need to do that. It's good to share.
Thank you very much, Galia.
Thank you.
Nicola, do you want to comment something about this? I say the sharing of the databases and how to make them more available, please.
Yeah, I think, let's say, one first of all, let's say, all the experiences presented today are potentially a good example for good practice in dealing with specific aspects. So I think that, let's say, can be also a possibility of collecting, at least from a project, DG Eco projects, relevant experiences, not just, okay, is not just a good practice. The project is not just a good practice, is some experiences within a specific project can become a good, let's say, good practices to be shared through the Solutions Explorer, because maybe focus some aspect related to involving local communities, or focus on specific aspect on education. They are targeting some of the Sendai framework, but more, let's say, and they can represent experience that can be upscaled or replicated at the same level in other places. But of course, this, let's say, I think are good examples of not the project by itself, because it is useless, but the specific experience, specific pieces of project can be really valuable for fostering also the sharing of knowledge through Solutions Explorer and so on.
Thank you, Nicola. May I ask you, having in mind what Calliope presented us about the training, are we also considering in our Solution Explorer the good practices in training?
Yeah.
Is that considered as well?
Yeah, let's say they can be added in the menu. Say having specific objective about related to training education is altogether. So it's not so specific on training, but you can let's say specifically report that this good practice is focus on training and then describe better so it's quite open. And of course, if we find that some specifications, some aspects are not within the Solution Explorer, we can add some of the voices. So for instance, if there is no, I don't remember now the name, but you can say the actors involved are specific part of the community, and then try to let's say share, let's say, which is the main target of your good practice. This, of course, so far, the Solutions Explorer is collecting just few good practices, just more, and we are in the process of putting. And during this process, of course, we can find that some aspects related to common aspects related to the good practice, such as maybe education, training, may need more specific attention. So we can set up specific keywords to describe better let's say the solution that will be uploaded.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I see that Galia has the hand raised. Before giving you the floor, I'd like to comment about one mention that you made to Horizon projects. I'm working in some of them, particularly in the field of forest fires. And there we are making a great effort of networking with other projects, especially from the Green Deal program. We have an action, concerted action to network with these projects. And we are making this effort, let's say, to have the common background and to share databases and share knowledge as far as possible. And I think this should be done throughout the disaster risk management community, not only the scientists, but also the operational people. Please, Galia, go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's I'll just bridge to what you are saying, that very good we have to find a common solution how to communicate with all communities, because there is one existing effort to develop a kind of a media channel online, not media, but community channel, community engagement channel. It's CMIM code, and it's well known for the DG Eco. They have projects from DG Science, DG Eco, and DG Home. And there is one aggregator which is not very popular to most of the partners. I'll send you the link. It will be good really to find the way how to communicate with European Commission that community issues, because it's good that we meet with all these projects But there is, at least we consider it a big gap that we have still a lot of politicians who are not understanding the level of the importance of data. And if we are a big mass of experts and with the background of European Commission, I think that it can be a good format and approach to communicate with the national authorities, because we have, according to the Sendai, each government has to mainstream the promises on national level, and I would like to see how many are doing it. You know, that we need to find the support how to redress our good ideas and our practices in reality, and to make them viable. And my question was addressed to but he left, Panayotis, I think, whether we can, for the exercises, it's very important when we make tabletop exercises or discussion-driven exercise to have a kind of visualized tools. And we know that some people or some organizations, they have these virtual rooms and they invested in so-called gaming, that you have mapped the whole relief and the territory, and they can simulate fires or etc. But not everybody has it. And I think this is another good point of the networking, that we managed to put a network of existing facilities and to find a way how to use them. Because it's cost effective, definitely. And it will be, you are far ahead with something, we don't need to invest time. If we are going to train only a couple of groups there, it's better to be identified either online or offline mode. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Galia. That's a good point. Unfortunately, Panayotis left us, but maybe Calliope, who also is working in that field of artificial intelligence and vision augmentation, if you want to comment about this issue of sharing knowledge and also capacities throughout the community, please.
Thank you. Indeed, I agree that we should cooperate. Actually, we provide training infrastructure, and moreover, we work on artificial intelligence and special intelligence agents in order to find a way to support first responders. So we believe that all of us can create a new holistic approach, actually. And what Panayotis and his team did is really complementary to what we actually are working on and what we think we should provide. So I agree with Galia and of course Panayotis, who is not here now, that we should find a way to merge our approaches. That would be an added value for everyone.
Thank you very much. Having in mind what we are addressing in the project, I would like to ask Claudia if what we are doing and what we are learning from these webinars, let's say, is in the context of we wish to advance this.
I think that it was a very nice way to end the roadmap with this last and third webinar. And it was, I think, very nice actually to finally hear after 1 year and a half also what some of the other projects are doing. I would actually wish to have more time since I was actually also responsible for the work package, for the dissemination work package of roadmap, to contact you and to have perhaps several of these exchange also in a smaller scale. But I see that 1 year and a half in this project is actually nothing. It's a huge challenge to be able to fulfill all the tasks, to respond to all what we have to some extent promised to DG ECHO through this project. So I was wondering while listening to you, you all, but especially during this last part of the discussion, if all the projects actually founded under the same call should contact actually DG ECHO and present in the proper form some of the challenges that we have been through, and if it's possible to overcome these challenges. One, personally, to me, is again the time frame of this project, which is really, really limited. The other one is what we have called in our slides and one point of access, one platform very easily very easy to reach, where we can share the information. Per today, the only way to know what you were doing was to go into your website, right? And this, I think, should be actually implemented via ECHO or via this CMINE, or even via the, I know that the Civil Protection Network platform has been newly established. This can be, for example, an interesting way to use that platform. I'm pretty sure that the Commission has thought already to accommodate there all the projects founded by DG ECHO. But definitely, I think that the sharing of knowledge is one of the biggest challenges we have. And not only here, actually, but I have, as Domingo has mentioned, experienced a bit the same with Horizon 2020 project. I feel, and again, it's my personal opinion, that research is still very much fragmented, but there is a lot out there that is reachable and easy to understand and easy to reuse and share. And to me, the most important actor, the key actor to try to overcome this fragmentation is the European Commission and DG ECHO. And I think that our role as a researcher, as participants in all this project, is to channel these challenges in a proper way and to make the Commission and DG ECHO even more aware, if they are not aware already, of course, of this kind of issues. And I want just to thank, I'm sorry that the colleague from Artion had to leave. I want to thank the other colleagues for the other project. It was very interesting to listen to you, and I learned very much today. And I wish you a good end to the project, because we are all ending at the same time. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Claudia. Now, before closing and giving the word to Andrea to close the meeting, I'd like to invite other members of the project that are on the panel, if they want to make any comment or address or even raise some question at this stage. Okay, Daniela, I see that you raised your hand. Please, you're welcome.
Thank you. I want to thank you, all the speakers, of course, very interesting session today. But my question or comment is about the glossary and the words that we have heard during this meeting. For instance, Galia, I think I noticed the definitions that you used in this scenario. For instance, it's in your presentation. If I'm right, are quite different from other definitions that we can see in other studies or in other projects. So I think that again, one of the points is that we should have a common definition, or we have to know which are the differences among the definitions and the language that we are using. Otherwise, we do not understand even among us.
Thank you for that question. Unfortunately, we are communicating with different people, and I'm personally even working at the Ministry of Interior. By the end of the day, it's not important to have the correct name. It's important to know what we are talking about, because the problem starts with the different legislation and what is categorized as a disaster, as an extraordinary event, and etc. And what kind of categories. Even DG ECHO has a common system under DRMKS, this common knowledge network, they use completely old-fashioned names of the disasters. This is absolutely, this is the basic. For that, I agree that we have to have a common common label, but once we, as I said, that we introduced the common tool from the UNDSR with their names, and the mayors and first responders said that this is not good for them. So we have to do things from opposite way. So in that case, what DG Home is trying to do a lot, please introduce all practitioners and first responders when you develop technologies and solutions, let them speak. Of course, there is I fully agree with you in terms of common procedures. We found out that there is no, what we are talking about, common standard operational procedures in European Union, we don't have. We have modules. And these modules, it means module in case of something, but it doesn't cover this 85% of other events. Then we found out that in Spain and in France, that they already use the system and processes of the Organization for Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid, OCHA. And they have their terminology, and they have published open source protocols. They started using them. Of course, we can change everything. We can have a common language. The point is what we understand under that. It's indeed, I fully agree with you, but it's very difficult. I mean, if we use two scientific names, you know, it's not even understood by the ministries. I mean, I have personal experience that the minister is telling you, sorry, but I don't understand this Hoax Society language. You know, then we need to speak the language of Facebook. Unfortunately, it's also our task how to find a way to, you know, common language with politicians. I fully agree. I mean, we can discuss any changes, and there are many approaches. I think that each terminology and each project is formed by the type of people who are involved. This is it. And I doubt that DG ECO will introduce a common terminology. They have one huge material risk assessment methodology with a lot of scenarios. It's quite good document. I mean, it's fine, but they are just explain how things are done in different countries, and each country has its own scenario, and they use also their own terminology. I don't know, if somebody finds a solution what to do with that, it will be good. Maybe you'll be the person. No? Raising hands, you're ready to do that job.
No, it's difficult also within our system. So if you want to put together the systems from all the countries, very difficult. Yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you, both Danielle and Galia. I saw that Bjorn Kuki had raised your hand. So
well, yeah.
Speak,
thank you. I think that Danielle and Galia, you made all the important points there. But it is a good practice to realize that we use different definitions. We have different terminology. So the good practice will be to define the concepts we use and to make sure that it's understood that we might use different definitions, different understandings of concepts. And one way of doing this good practice is like in this webinar that well, we have some ideas about what good practice is in first response or on operational room level, and then when we merge our understanding of what good practice is with the people doing the simulation or artificial intelligence, that we can they bring the technology and we have the good practice, and in this way it is a kind of we reach a kind of common agreement. But in addition, of course, we need to make sure that we use the same or the concepts we use, that we understand it in the same way, and that we define it, and realizing that we will not end up with a common understanding, we will not end up with a common definition.
Thank you very much, Björn. Okay, we are reaching the end of the time that we had allocated to this webinar. And I would like to invite our project coordinator, Andrea. Is he online? Oh.
He wrote something in the chat.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't notice. Okay, anyway, I think that Andrea would, of course, thank all of the speakers in particular and all of you who attended for your contribution. And I saw that in the chat, Galia also shared with us some information about the meeting, so we will take care of that as well. And our project roadmap will end next month in June. We'll have in-presence workshop that is planned in home for the 9th and 10th of June. And I think I'm sure that you'll receive notice about this event and also from other outcomes of the project. And as several of you mentioned, this webinar was very rich in the fact that not we only exchanged some ideas about what we are doing, but also we shared our common interest in putting together what we are doing, and as far as possible, let's say, try to join efforts also to go towards other institutions, namely the European Commission, DG ECHO, so that what we are doing can have a life after our projects end. That will be soon, but we still have to continue to work together because risks are not going to finish, and we need to continue to work on them all together. If I may, in the name of the project, also say goodbye to you and wish you good luck and good work for the next period, and hope to see you soon, all of you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.